Hello, everybody, and welcome to HNF Podcast. This evening, we have a very special guest from the wildly successful and highly adminted page, Social Justice Warriors. This is Trigger Ken. Hello, Trigger
G'day
Ken.
everyone. How you going?
Yes. Now, today's topic is we're going to be going over the Ghostbusters film and its entire controversy that has surrounded it, as well as how it got Milo Yiannopoulos of Breitbart Tech banned from Twitter for life this time. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff, so let's get right into it. I have not seen the film, but Trigger Ken has, and she has made notes on it like a nerd.
Yep, I'm putting out a review of it pretty soon on the Social Justice Warriors page. So I'll be putting that, I think, a link to that on my own page. But yeah, it's been a whole interesting experience. Because I think I've followed the film since it was first announced, and yeah, I think after seeing it, it wasn't as awful as I thought. But it's just, I think for what it is as a reboot, it's not that memorable either, and maybe that's the entire problem. Like it's just it's not as bad where you actively sort of like you actively hate it and you have strong evidence to like back up those thoughts, and it's not really bad as in it's so bad that it's endearing, like like say The Room, but it's not memorable and it's really disappointing in the end. So yeah, I mean, honestly, like a lot of the plot you can sort of see from a mile away, and just when you see how like Paul Feig and the cast have sort of reacted to criticism to that, it's just like, yeah, you just start sort of cluing into the fact that it's like, hey, maybe it's not a misogyny problem with your movie, but rather a quality problem. Did you guys ever think about that? Yeah, I don't know. It's just typical, but yeah, I think that they would have done a lot better if they'd focused more so on making the movie good instead of just like pushing back all of the blowback from it. So, yeah. Anyway, what do you reckon?
Well, I received a link to a channel called Midnight Edge that goes
Yep.
over, yes, and they went over the whole corporate politics of it all, which I find vastly more interesting than the Twitter drama that the comedians ensued. Is
Yeah.
that this film was conceived by an executive who was hot off the presses from some other film. I can't really remember what, but it was some comedy of last year,
Okay.
and he wanted to do a all female Ghostbusters,
Yeah.
and this oh shoot, shut up person. Anyway, um, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Yes,
Corporate politics.
yes. I didn't have relationships with that woman. Anyway,
Okay.
yes. What's the name? It's it's sort of interesting how they chose all the comedians to do this role because as as the original Ghostbusters went, they chose the highest paid comedians at the time, that being Bill Murray and the others.
Yeah.
And now Bill Murray before Ghostbusters was in quite a number of other films that I would consider hallmarks. He was in the Blues Brothers, he was in Caddyshack, he was in Animal House, like stuff that I
Yeah.
would consider essential American comedy viewing.
Pretty much, and it's all like it's really just kind of sort of like the golden sort of it's part of that sort of golden era of SNL when it was really starting to pick up as well. Because I mean, you had like John Belushi, you had oh. I found out that I found out in researching this that the ghost of I think the original Slimer was supposedly the ghost of John Belushi, which I never knew. But yeah. Anyway, back from that. Yeah, like I mean, it's sort of the formula for a successful reboot was there because you had about three-quarters of the cast who were also from SNL, like who are doing reasonably well on there, and it just all really just sunk. I think yeah, I don't know what happened. It was like, I don't know if it was studio interference wanting to make it more sort of more consumable for like everyday families rather than centering in on a more of a sort of a targeted kind of market. But it just, yeah, like I was honestly just sort of dumbfounded. Like I said, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was, but it was just like knowing that the formula is there for a decent reboot and it just falls apart. It's just like you're just thinking, why? It's like when you try and cook a new recipe, you follow it exactly, and it just kind of ends up exploding in your oven. So, yeah, I don't know. It's just like I got a lot of feelings about this, but thankfully we've got a bit more time. So, all right. But yeah, but as for the studio politics, it's just like it makes sense that I think that this executive would sort of want to do like an all-female Ghostbusters reboot, especially considering like, the political climate of our time where a common narrative seems to be like, oh, there aren't good women there aren't good women in movies, there aren't well fleshed out female characters. It's like, well, they are there if you bother to look for them. Like they're always there. But considering that, it's just like everyone has their opinion about Paul Feig, I do realize, but he does know how to write funny women. He has done so in the past with Bridesmaids. But the thing is, he completely dropped the ball on this one, and I don't know why. But yeah, I don't know how much of it is part of like studio interference and how much is actually part of Lee's like can be blamed on Fig, because I don't really blame the female cast at all, because they're actresses. They work with what they're given. But yeah, it's just,
and on their social media, every one of the actors and actresses involved in this, and I didn't know this until this evening. Chris Hemsworth, Mighty Thor, and Milo's biggest crush is the penny of this film in another gender swap. How the original secretary was a woman and now it's a hunky man. And
yeah, exactly. And it's like, I mean, to Chris Hemsworth's credit, he actually delivers like a few giggles in the movie, and I heard that a lot of it was improvised, and it's just like, it's just like sort of thumbs up for trying there, man. But honestly, it's like his whole performance, like he does play a very sweet character. Like I don't really sort of fault his character in that many respects. It's just how it was sort of come across, because from the get-go, like you did clue into the fact that the men in this movie fit into three categories really. They're either roadblocks who try and stop the women in what they're doing or try and cut them down or anything, like basically giant metaphors for the great and evil patriarchy, or men are absolute dumb as shit, which is again more sort of commentary on, I took it as more commentary on like the great and powerful sort of patriarchy. And the third category is they're on screen for 10 seconds, so you don't really know what they're like, but like you see it across the board. Like even with I think with what isn't mentioned too much is with Professor Aaron Gilbert, I think part of the whole reason she sort of like gets dragged into, I think, ghostbusting and everything is just because she's going for a tenure job at Columbia University. And the dean there is played by Charles Dance, who actually puts in quite a good performance with what he's given.
Yeah, Charles Dance is one. I'm going to go on a little rant here for a second. Charles Dance is one of those classical British opera actors. He's much in the same cast as John Connery or Hannibal Lecter.
Absolutely, like he's so great and intimidating in pretty much everything that he plays, and it's just he was a joy to watch.
Yeah, he's like the mean father that we all wish we had.
Oh yeah, it's just like you can sort of watch him, and it's just like you feel sort of like just pee running down your leg because he's so intimidating. And,
yeah, he's not tall either. He's like 5 foot. It's either 5'5" or 5'6", but he's like really an imperious force.
Yeah. And I think it's a voice as well, just like that nice sort of smooth, but like just like rumbling kind of voice as well that sort of makes his that makes his sort of characters really sort of, like that he's there, and that he means business.
Uh-huh.
But it's like, yeah, like I said, I think he has, yeah, like everything was sort of meant to work in this movie, and it's just, I mean, I haven't seen a whole lot of like Leslie Jones's work before, but it's considering the back catalogue of like McCarthy and Wig, yeah, it's just honestly like I'm sort of just left shaking my head. It's just like, what happened here, ladies? It's I don't know. It's just like I said, I don't blame I think the failure of Ghostbusters on the actresses, because like I said, they're given a script, they read it out, they perform it to the best of their ability, and I really just think that with what they were given, they did try their best. And like I just think that perhaps if they hadn't made this such a cartoonish sort of representation of all of these women, and forged a larger connection to the previous iterations of Ghostbusters, that it would have been a lot more successful. Because watching this, you see little bits here and there that connect back to the original series. Like, I mean, you see the return of Slimer and the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, which is really nice to see after, like, from where they sort of enter into the movie. It's just like, okay, here's a familiar face. That's kind of nice.
Yeah, a heavily CGI face, but a face nonetheless.
Yeah, just the CGI is just really not
that good. It looks straight out of a Scooby-Doo live-action film. Tell me I'm wrong.
Oh, I wish I could. I really do. It's just, yeah, like, I can see, like, you can sort of see the effect that they're going for. Like, they are trying, I think they did try to sort of, to capture that, like how they did it back in the original iterations, where it was a little bit sort of like colorful, and it got away with being a bit cartoony, because films in the 80s, like especially Ghostbusters, really just didn't give a fuck. They did what they liked. But the thing is that for its time, Ghostbusters CGI was amazing. Mm-hmm. And really, with like 30 years later, we've had things like, Grand Theft Auto 5 and, LA Noire, that's been really excellent with the motion capture technology. And, like, I mean, I know that some parts of this were mocap with the ghost stuff, and it's just, you really don't see it, because it's just like, there's even like, in the film's climax, there's even like tons and tons of like, sort of like ominous green smoke around, but it's not that ominous, because it's not real. It's all CGI'd, and it just, like, you can really sort of tell, like, and you just start thinking, just like, did no one have access to a smoke machine or anything where you could just sort of create something organic so it doesn't look this bloody fake? You don't feel any impending sense of fear or danger for the characters, because it's just like, none of this is really that real, and it's not sort of remotely kind of scary. And in the beginning, like, this actually sort of relies on a lot of jump scares to sort of like shock the audience, which we all know jump scares are kind of cheap scares nowadays. Like, let's be real.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just, I don't know.
It's just, like, the last legitimately terrifying film that I watched was Moonbase, and not to sound like a hipster, but it shows that you don't need $1 billion to do a great job with it. It's a very, like, sort of those high, like, very sort of impending doom sort of scenarios, because in Moonbase, there's a guy who's been working there for a few years, only to discover that he's the fifth clone in a series of clones on the Moonbase. Because it would make sense that why make the trouble of having the trip to go there and back every time he needs to come home, when you can just have a already programmed clone to run and maintain this base for you. And it's one of those very creepy, sort of unsettling feelings that you can get. And then Um, so the next item, not Leslie Jones, but Lisa Johnson, I believe, is the actress's name, the Black Ghostbuster in the film, had
Yep.
a Twitter meltdown, or she claimed she was hacked. And
Yeah.
I
Yeah. It was this
on
whole.
my own page, I was following it, making a post every so hour or whatever. And
Yeah.
then when I actually went to the Twitter page, none of the stuff was there. So I made a retraction saying, I can't discern whether this is legitimate or whether it's just
Yeah.
trolling or it's been shopped. But
Mm.
she does claim that this wasn't me. I didn't send this. It was something like, "You white devils better prepare for more dead cops" with shit like this, and it was a retweet of some, I don't know, All Lives Matter
Yeah.
or whatever. But a lot of the stuff that I had posted was not there on Twitter, so I don't know if she deleted it or it wasn't real.
Yeah.
And
It's kind of just Schrodinger's tweet at this stage.
uh-huh. And
Um.
then she got into a spat with Milo Yiannopoulos of Breitbart Tech.
Yeah.
Now, and he wrote a scathing review of the Ghostbusters film
Yeah.
because he's a scathing review of pretty much everything. I'm sure he tear me apart if I ever talk to him with him.
Yeah, for sure. It's just, I mean, Marlowe does. I think if there's one thing that Marlowe does well, it's that. It's just, I mean, he is the shade queen of the alt right. Let's be real. But yeah, I think I actually read his review before I went in, and yeah, it is really scathing, possibly unnecessarily so. And I think from his review, I got the feeling that he was trying to appeal to the crowd that does hate this movie on principle. The whole idea of no, Ghostbusters is just for men, keep it the same, don't do anything with it, and God forbid put women in it, which is just, that's not the attitude that I sort of wanted going in. Like, I really tried to be somewhat impartial to this, and it's, yeah, like I said, it's not as bad as I thought it was, but it could have been a lot better. And the fact that this is what, this is what sort of like Feig and Co have to show for, have to show for all of their gold power and, everything that they were trying to like market this film based on. It's just like, this is like, you get, I think I had a sort of like a repeating gif in my head of a scene out of Whiskey Tango Foxtrot where she's in sort of Saudi Arabia reporting on the first woman driver, and the girl like backs into sort of something, and she's just going, "Okay, this is bad. This is bad for women."
Sorry,
Like,
I
I was
laugh, but I
just
didn't.
thinking, he's just like, "This is bad. This is bad for women." Just no, just I think come on, back out here, because it just could have been done a lot better. But I did see that Twitter spat, and I think honestly, the first time that I saw it, I thought that someone may have mirrored Leslie Jones's account, because I mean, I was around, I think, back in the Gamergate days where people routinely did that in order
Uh-huh.
to just like make the
Yeah, like
original
there was
like
16 different Sargon accounts and Anita Sarkeesian, and they were all like one vowel away, or they erased one letter from the
yeah,
original person.
or they put like a
Well,
space at the end.
yeah, or an underscore somewhere. But yes, that is the whole idea of making a Fox
Yeah.
account.
Yeah. But like in saying that as well, it's just like we don't know the amount. I mean, like when it comes down to it, like Jones should have had the good grace to just tap out of Twitter early and just go, no, I'm not dealing with this. Like, fuck all of you. But I mean, being in that position, like even just on a page, like sometimes you just need to get the last bloody word in, and I
Yeah,
get that so much.
yeah, I've had to
um,
step away a few times, but it's a
yeah,
relatively small page I run, and
yeah,
the occasional, I don't know, edge lord that's just trying to get under your skin. It's like, all right, be pissed. I'm just gonna go
yeah,
away, go to work, take care of my kids,
just
which may or may not exist.
yeah. Yeah, I'm just gonna be just like, you know what? I'm out. Just I'm not dealing with this anymore.
Yeah,
Don't care. Do not
and
care.
while I was, this is sort of a side story. While I was touring around London on my
Yeah,
vacation from work, I saw in the terminals and in museums green slime like wrapped around the security surveillance stuff, like it was supposed to be a promotional for the Ghostbusters film, and
yeah,
like, oh, excuse me, on like every seven or so wall, I saw an ad for it, and unlike the American promotional work, I didn't see any of the actresses on the poster, or I saw
yeah,
like close-ups that I couldn't discern.
yeah,
But it kind of looked like a Batman poster, to be honest, a
yeah,
little bit. And around the tunnel, the Euro, whatever it's called in
yeah,
London, instead of having the circle with the word Metro in it, it had a ghost in it with the X out. And that was pretty entertaining. But there were a
yeah,
lot of like, there's a lot of promotional work in the London area, and even in France, it was even more so the case.
yeah, for
Because,
sure.
yeah, I still enjoyed
Yeah,
my trip over there, even though I couldn't understand half the people. Whatever.
yeah. I mean, like, considering, like, I mean, I think I have a little bit of a background in marketing. I mean, that sounds like a really good sort of like build up campaign. And it's
Oh
just,
yeah,
it's something that would get people geared up. It's just like, there's just no getting around the fact that the trailer was cut a lot more horribly than what the final execution of the film was. It's just like that trailer was just awful. Like, I mean, I think I had a lot of feelings about the movie when it came out, and honestly, it just looked like that they'd slapped boobs on the original four, and a lot of it, a lot of my gripes were just mainly centered around the whole idea of like this, um, just sort of the message that I got from it was that, oh, these female characters are only really as good as the men that came before them, which is just, which is like I was just thinking, look, they should be able to sort of stand on their own and, and not like not necessarily sort of like be too close to the originals in that way. I know that I said like that a larger connection to the original needs to be forged, but I do think these women did deserve their own characterization. And like in seeing the film for myself, it's just I do realize that they had a little bit more to them fleshed out than what we did see in the trailer, which was good. It just wasn't like that much. I mean, one character I was really impressed with was Holtzman. Like Kate McKinnon's performance. I mean, even though Milo, I think, called her a lip syncing drag queen, then again, kind of so is he. But yeah, it's like, for all of the film's faults, like she is different from the other Ghostbusters. You do see it, and it's like you do feel that her performance is quite sort of is quite genuine. Like it is like really animated, but and you know that she's the token weirdo from the get go, but it's just she's like endearingly so, and she does like she is one of the few Ghostbusters that actually really sort of does anything kind of remotely sciencey. Like she makes the weapons and everything. She's like a big part of the research. Like she's a really good engineer. Like they wouldn't have their bloody proton packs or anything if it wasn't for her. And like even more so, she doesn't seem to engage in this giant sort of circle jerk of patting each other on the back and wanting to be taken super duper seriously as scientists as the other three Ghostbusters do. And it's just
yeah.
like
It's
to
just
the
like take
film's
the piss out of yourself once in a while,
yeah,
so you don't
exactly.
overinflate. And
Exactly.
but in this film, what ultimately causes the outbreak of ghosts? Because in the original, it was I think someone with the Justice Department in New York who was just tampering around and kicked a screw loose or something to that effect. But yeah, I need to
You're gonna
rewatch
get
it.
me talking about
I need to watch the original and because it's
okay.
all sort of fading in my mind. Comes with old
Yeah.
age.
Yeah, I think
And
basically back in the day it was someone in the Justice Department who sort of lets them out accidentally. In this iteration, however, um, oh god, it's like you gotta be making me talk about this bloody villain. And anyway, what happens? Basically, for one of the biggest reboots in recent times, we get the world's biggest beta male as a villain.
uh,
in no uncertain terms. Like, trust me on this one.
does he
No, we
have a
had this.
fedora? I must know.
Honestly, like he doesn't have a fedora, but he has like a really horrible set of like pointy sideburns. I know. I wish I was making this up. Like you see him, and I actually thought that he was a co-conspirator of the villain. I mean, like originally, because it's like if what you do is you first see him. Well, you first see Patty in a New York Metro sort of cubicle, just sort of working her job, and you see this guy sort of rolling up, and he rattles off a line that wouldn't look like in any way out of place. Like, you would have pulled like this would have been pulled straight off like out of our communism, like. Anyway, he goes down and he puts this contraption in the New York subway, and then Patty sort of has to go to the Ghostbusters and fish them down there, and they capture their second ghost, like pretty much rinse repeat. But this guy, he is like, even just his appearance, like, I mean, I know that's not really sort of the fault of Neil Casey, but it's like they went out of their way to make every single critic of their movie into one singular sort of villain, and it ended up this guy. It was like their projection of what everyone who criticizes this movie will look like. But anyway, his name is Rowan North, and what he does is, like, from the get-go, he wants to unleash all of these sort of ghosts onto New York City because he's been bullied all of his life. He feels pretty inferior. He has a job as a janitor at this New York City hotel. And I think he's got a massive interest in the paranormal, and he's, as well as, a massive sort of entitlement kind of complex as well. Oh, and he happens to have read the book that the two of the Ghostbusters wrote like years prior as well. So he turns it into his like little psycho diary. But yeah, he basically releases them willingly to just try and sort of make himself feel better about his shitty life, and sort of like prove everyone sort of wrong, and oh, it's like the universe will bend to my will. Like, that's an actual line from the film, like,
Yeah.
no embellishment at all. But
this sort of archetype reminds me a lot of like Kylo Ren, the way you're describing him. A very sort of introverted, sort of awkward person, but has a lot of potential to do harm. And this is what pissed me off so much about Kylo Ren, because if you know anything about the expanded universe, and I don't care what Disney says, it exists.
Yeah.
All the Sith Lords, or at least the ones notable in history, they are all very strong, powerful people. When they walk into a room, you listen. Even the shortest person there, and I know I'm harping on height, but even Darth Maul, who was like a foot taller than everybody else in that film, he was flying, he was kicking. He never says a word in the film, but you just know this is a person that is going to kill you if you make a mistake around him. Yeah. And even Darth Vader in the originals, he walks in the room, you pay attention, you listen to what he says. And
absolutely.
even Sidious in the prequels, and I know how much the prequels get so much heat, and rightfully so, but even Sidious, or as he's known as Emperor Palpatine, Senator Palpatine in the films, is that even when he's not Sith, when he's talking, you get caring about what he's talking about. It is very much the perfect politician. It's that there's someone who can tell you to go to hell and make you anticipate the journey.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's like, with all due respect, like, I did like Kylo Ren a lot more. So I think a lot more so than Buddy Rowan North in here, because it's like with Kylo Ren, you can at least sort of, you can see that he is still trying to find his feet in his position. Like, he's not even really, like, once you think about it, he's not really even like the head honcho of everything. It's like,
Yeah, and
but
yeah, and that's one of the things that confused me about him is that even like if this person was my boss, is that I wouldn't really care what he had to say or even if he told me what to do because he's
yeah,
kind of like that passive aggressive boss who's there just because he
yeah.
knows people, just like
Oh, and he throws
really
a
unfit
giant,
for the job, but he's there
yeah.
regardless.
Yeah, and he has a capability to just throw a massive fucking tantrum when necessary. Because
Uh-huh.
like, if we consider sort of like symbolism and just sort of, his origins and everything, I think a lot of it is him trying to find his footing as a Sith Lord after all of his training in the ways of the Jedi, and just who he comes, like his parents and everything else. And it's just, he really just sort of seems like that angry kid who's sort of like rebelling against mom and dad, just like, you can't tell me what to do. Like, that's what Kylo, yeah, like that's what Kylo Ren comes off as to me. And it's like, that's why it's like I sort of make a few concessions with Adam Driver's performance, because it's like, yeah, okay, it's just like I am getting very sort of like angry kid, sort of like newly minted as a Sith Lord. It's just like I can get that from, I can get that from you. But with Rowan North, like from the get go, you're just like, this guy is just a douche. And I've seen him, like, not only in my day-to-day life, but I've seen him described before, and it's just, he is basically every feminist, like, work, every feminist enemy. Like, he is just, he's that sort of like that white kind of like pudgy guy who has, sort of no real sort of style. And he's just basically what you would if you asked, like,
If
if
I
you
asked a
asked, like,
feminist pick what their average critic would be like, they would
yeah,
come up with this character. All right, I can
yeah, with this
I can sort
guy,
of devise exactly what they would tell me
yeah.
he looks like or acts like at least. Um,
Exactly, and it's just, and he willingly unleashes the ghosts on New York City, like by connecting these sort of these ley lines, like these spiritual lines across New York City, which he sort of gathered from from the girl's book and everything. Like, a lot of this has to do with, like, that's his sort of connection to two of the Ghostbusters. But yeah, he just releases them just in order to sort of make his own ego feel better. And it's a really cheap way to devise a villain. Like, I mean, there's ways to go about a power mad, like a power mad sort of villain without making it so, like, such a sort of cop out. Because it's like, this guy, he just wants like power until sort of the cows come home.
yeah.
But it's yeah, it's just the way that he goes about it is, you don't really empathize with, like, you don't really even get geared up for him as a villain. Like, you're not sort of wondering, oh shit, what's he gonna do next? Like, it's not like that at all. And it's like, the best villains are ones where you can see their reasoning and you can sort of understand why they've done what they've done, and still want them to sort of like go down like a lead balloon in the film's climate. But yeah, it's just that this guy is nowhere near being any one of them. He's not, he's not that memorable. And like I said, when I first saw him, I thought he was a co-conspirator of the villain, because he was just,
He's a Marvel villain pretty much.
yeah.
He's
Oh.
there to further the universe pretty much.
He's like, he honestly makes Marvel villains look better.
Oh,
It's
okay.
just, yeah, honestly, it's like, this guy is just, he just seems to have been mashed together. It's just, you get the feeling that after the first trailer was released, I think Paul Feig went back and rewrote all the villain parts, reshot them, and it was just like, no, we're doing away with this original one, and this is the guy that we're sticking with, because, like, fuck all these people. So
yeah,
like, that's
an interesting
you
little
get that
factoid
feeling.
that I learned from Midnight Edge is that
Yep.
when it was brought to Sony's attention that the trailer wasn't doing well, and there were like a billion or so comments saying, "This is the original. This is X, and why I don't like it. Here are my reasons." And there's like, "Fucking women!" bleh."
Yeah.
And so, in their wisdom, and I can sort of see why they did this, because at that point there is no other option. If you want to craft a narrative, and in this age of outrage culture, the best way to gain momentum for free is to
Yep.
craft one side and the other. So they erased
Yep.
all the elongated comments and left the sort of snarky troll ones.
Yep.
And then it was showed out to the press that, oh, look at all these terrible comments for this trailer because XYZ, and it's nothing but this is oh God, what did Salon say? We live in a culture that hates women, and this is unsurprising to us. Go see this film to protest the well, whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
They can be pedophiles. I don't care really what they
Yep.
want.
Well, it was like, yep.
And when the next trailer dropped, I think they left a lot of the comments as is and sort of just let the media do their advertisement for them, because
Yeah.
they spent, I think it was $60 million in advertisement globally on top
Oh
of
God.
on top of the 150 that it made to make the film. Like
Yeah.
like I think the total production value of this project, marketing, hiring the actors, and doing all of the localization, it
Yeah.
came out to roughly $250. We
Yeah.
are 2 weeks into its release, and it
Yep.
has made 86 million, I believe, give or take.
No, it's at my last check it was 122 million, but like still under budget, but it's like it's global sort of
Yes,
that's its global
That's
revenue.
domestic plus global market merged together.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
It's just dismal.
Yes, and this brings me to an interesting point. The Wonder Woman trailer, which that's the entire reason Batman and Superman was even made, is to
Yep.
sort of set up the Super Friends universe, I guess.
Yep.
And,
Yeah. Pretty much.
and the biggest criticism from the media so far against Wonder Woman, I mean, Wonder Woman herself as a comic book character is the ideal female next to Miss Marvel character. She
Yeah.
is strong, she is powerful, and she is only weakened when she is tied down. And
Yeah,
if you
she's
go
the
to
classic sort of female
she
superhero.
is the Silver Age woman superhero, and everybody should be paying royalty checks to her. That includes, I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
Well, I've lost the plot, as you all say.
Yeah, so good.
And the biggest criticism from Twitter or just whoever is that she is Israeli with a background with the IDL or whoever is the Israeli defense. Like, it would have been nice to have Wonder Woman be a, I don't know, cross-dressing tranny dog person of color or whatever it was. But the main criticism they're leveled against her is that she is Israeli. And, but I have no knowledge of this actress in particular, and I sort of need to go through all the information before I can do a post on Wonder Woman, because it's sort of,
just admittedly I haven't delved a whole lot into I think the current iteration of Wonder Woman, but if the main criticism against her is Israeli, I mean, in a way I can sort of understand that, because it does deviate a lot from canon, because as we all know, Wonder Woman is an Amazon woman. She comes from an Amazon tribe. But if it's just a needless criticism against the actress's just the actress's nationality, or the filmmakers have just tried to sort of slice and dice the character to sort of like fit more so along those lines. Well, it's just like, I don't know, it's just like I'd probably just sort of hang out until like just sort of seeing the trailer a little bit, because it's like you never know. I mean, I constantly make the argument that it's not necessarily about the heritage of the actor, it's whether they can actually play the part well that should matter more so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and I've made the case that, and I'm probably going to get a lot of heat from this, is that talent doesn't know race or whatever to that extent. Is that I went to England at the original stage that Shakespeare built because he made so much money. And there's no like audio in that place. It's all acoustic. And it was Macbeth, and half the cast of the African persuasion, and it was good. Even though I was up in the corner behind a pillar for most of the play, I liked what I heard mostly. And there was a standing ovation and everything, and that was pretty interesting to me. But,
for sure.
But I mean, changing an established character's race simply because a call for diversity, like I don't want Black Panther to be white, and I don't want Superman to be, I don't know, Latino or whatever. I'd like Marvel. I'd like comics, if they're going to be made into movies or animation or whatever, to be as close to the source as possible. And if they need to be changed for whatever reason, say they can't get anyone to play the part, or they can't find someone with the sort of charisma and machismo to play the role, then I can understand that. But if you're hiring, but it's sort of like the Fantastic Four of last year, or not last year, I think it was 2014 when it came out, is that they made the Torch black, and the reason why they did that was to fill a quota or something.
Yeah, pretty much, and it's a really cheap way to sort of appeal to this whole, like, I hate using the term politically correct because it just makes me sound like just a grumbling sort of 60-year-old, but it's just like we've seen it. I just see it as a really cheap way to appeal to this, like, to fringe idiots who are going to freak out at just like more so the lack of presence of of I think people like of different minorities and things like that. And it just when you have like such a wealth of creativity in Hollywood that is thus undiscovered, and
because it sure isn't Abrams.
It's just like when you have so many people who are capable of creating original characters for like different communities to look up to, like it just seems like such a cop out when it's just like, oh, let's make Thor female, let's make Black Panther Asian, let's do this, let's just change this character's race without actually changing the character, because or trying to sort of create a new one from scratch. Because, hey, we're lazy and these people are screaming at us because, we don't want to sort of like, we didn't want to fiddle with this character before, but now we do because, hey, we want their dollars. It just seems like a really sort of cheap appeal to this audience that really aren't going to spend the money on these creators' content at the end of the day. Like, I mean, if Ghostbusters' marketing scheme of, you're a misogynist if you don't watch this movie, essentially, if that was to work out in any case, like, it would have made a lot more, like, money than it's made. But the fact is that the biggest critics of this movie, of, like, the whole idea that, there aren't good female characters, or there isn't this, or this needs to be changed, or, oh my god, I can see that character's privilege. Like, if they actually spent, money on these parts and focused on actually getting them made, then they would get more characters that are geared more towards them, but they don't. And they feel entitled to those characters anyway because, oh, I'm a special snowflake. Like, it's just, I mean, I'm not trying to go all like keep your hands off my media, because I do reckon that there is a place for everyone in there, and if you're a creator, then you shouldn't be held back from creating a character that you want, that you like have poured your heart and soul into, like. And no one else should tell you, oh, it should be this way because I say so. But really, it just seems that I think like this, and and Marvel especially is a big sort of like even like yeah, Marvel especially is a big offender of this. But it's just they seem to try to change characters in order to placate the perpetually offended, which isn't a good way to go about business. I'm not saying that they should baby their audience already, because hey, everyone needs their views challenged, and subversion is not always a bad thing. But
I'm still waiting for a new Spawn film from.
Yeah.
Because that's like my favorite superhero, and I know I sound like an edgy teenager saying that.
Yeah.
He is. He was the first like mature comic I ever owned, and before that, it was a lot of. Do you remember a comic called the Doonesbury Chronicles?
It rings a bell.
Yeah, it was. It was usually made in the Sunday papers as the Sunday comic, and it came out during the sort of Flower Child era and everything that came along with that. But it follows a character named Doonesbury and his transition from college to sort of adulthood in that weird era. I did a whole like report on it after college, but I was still there. And and then I picked up Spawn just on a whim because I had seen a lot of the illustrations. I'm an artist myself, and I liked it, so I'm like, okay, I'll pick up whatever issue to begin with just to see where everything's going now. I now have like 10 comics of him sitting somewhere in this apartment.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's more I think, like there's more comic book characters and everything that like than just Superman, than just Batman, than there's all of that. And it's just I just feel that like I mean, I reckon that Hollywood, that everyone's only just shooting themselves.
I'm going to rewire something here, so it'll take me like
5 seconds. No worries. Yeah, I'll just keep talking for the audience here. I just reckon that basically, Marvel, I think DC, like everyone's just shooting themselves in the foot, like by acting like the only comic book characters that are out there are, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, The Flash, Green Lantern, Batman, all of those. Like, I mean, it's just kind of keeping the whole scope of superheroes of what they can be really, really small, because hey, those ones happen to be popular, and the free market would dictate that like certain characters are allowed to be more popular than others, but like both DC and Marvel, like those are just two companies out of many, and even they have their own extensive repertoire of heroes and villains that can be made into that can be sort of expanded on screen. And it's just by changing around like treasured ones, it's like you're only opening a can of worms by doing so. And like we have seen that it doesn't pay off in the long run. Like female Thor, sold horribly. It's
been that way since the 80s, and even my brother, excuse me, even my brother, who is an SJW himself, it's always fun when we get together.
That's so good.
Yeah,
I have plenty of friends who are, so it's
Yeah, but getting back to my point, the comic book sort of outreach, as I want to say, has sort of been will be topical and will be edgy or sort of false edgy as we are now. Because I mean, what are the Christians going to do? Protest?
Yeah, pretty much.
But yeah, it's sort of like beating a toothless dog at this point. It's kind of sad. But anyway, the buyers of comics will tend to flare up whenever there's a huge issue going on, because then they hire a bunch of writers who will sort of integrate today's topic within the comics themselves. And we could see that even in the golden age of comics, where Superman was going up against the Nazis or Batman was beating up communists.
Yeah.
It sort of flares up and then slowly dies down in the next 5 years or so. And that's sort of been the cycle for every major comic book character for the last 35 or 100 years, pretty much.
Yeah.
But I believe movies are going in the same direction, and even games are going in the same direction. Like, have you seen the synopsis for the new Watch Dogs from Ubisoft or whoever?
No, I haven't just yet. I think I've been meaning to check it out.
It is a can of worms and more.
Oh, okay. All right. Give me a rundown of it.
Okay, so the protagonist from the first one, they're going to pretend he didn't exist, even though they had a huge push for him to be the iconic new IP, and that didn't fly. So they're going to revamp the entire setup of this game while still keeping it sort of the same. There's a hacking mechanic within it, and you can still think of GTA, only you're able to hack stuff. And by hack, I mean press a button and shit happens. But the protagonist in this is a black person who was evicted for gentrification. It's basically Black Hitler, is what I'm saying. And he surrounds himself with betas and the bottom of tumbler barrel, pretty much. And his setup is, it's supposed to be open and inclusive and sympathizing, I know, but it is very much a hard stereotype of what he is. He is pretty much a jobless thug, and I'm like, that's not helpful. That is, I'd say, racist if I was entitled to that opinion.
Yeah. It's just funny how when you have like these companies and stuff appealing,
we're gonna be open and inclusive.
Yeah, and you end up stereotyping people harder than the freaking Ku Klux Klan. It's just, oh man, it's just, I'd like to say that I could picture this going anyway when you first started.
Yeah, and the antagonist in the new game is Donald Trump incarnated, only 20 years younger.
Oh god.
Yeah. Oh, it's going to be fun tearing this game apart when it eventually comes. It's going to be the Assassin's Creed Unity, also by Ubisoft.
Yeah, it's going to be something I'm going to have to buy for Carnival of Cringe. So, it's just, no. That just sounds just horrible on so many levels.
Yeah, and mind you, this is all secondhand knowledge that I got from Kevin. He's a fellow admin, and we usually do this together on every month or so, and he gave me the rundown because he focuses on a lot of what Ubisoft does, a lot of what Sony does, a lot of what Microsoft does. I do a lot of what Bethesda and other film places do, so it sort of balances out, and the other two just fuck around, doing whatever they want.
No worries.
They're on meme scouting.
I sort of like scout around for just content that interests me, but I think I've mainly sort of had more so of an interest in movies. Like games, I absolutely love, but I think I don't keep up with as much gaming news now as I did during Gamergate. Just mainly just because it's just sort of like life's caught up with me, and I'd really just like to sort of scout out games that I think I'm interested in because of their content. Like
I'm where like responsibilities pile on, and you don't have 12 hours to burn every day to play. So,
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
even myself, I've gotten a 3DS just for the convenience
Yeah.
of it, because it'd be weird to explain to the boss why there's a PS4 and a 30-inch screen in the office.
Yeah.
But I did pick up Bravery Default. I mean Bravery the Second, and
Yeah.
yes, and I have no like experience with job-based role-playing games at all,
Yeah.
and some of the dialogue is a carnival cringe. Like there's a
Yeah.
character in it who cannot pronounce M without saying meow, and it goes
Oh
off. And it goes.
God.
I have screen caps of this, and I'll probably share it at some point. Of
All
them saying,
right.
"For His Majesty," and
Oh
yeah,
God.
yeah.
Yeah, I think the last game that I actually play well, the last sort of newish kind of game that I play, because I think this is my pitfall. Like I have a tendency to go back and replay games that I really really love, instead of picking up the new ones that have sort of been gathering dust for a while that I've never opened and have just sort of bought on sale or something.
Yeah, that's
So
how it goes.
that's one of my pitfalls with gaming. um, but the last one that's going to get a Carnival of Cringe article written about it was oh fuck, what's it called? It was hang on, Life is Strange. It just only just came to me. I just had a complete brain fart there. Yeah. I know, it's just like, yeah, Life is Strange. It's just like I picked it up. I was just like, you know what? I've heard people like ranting and raving about this, and it's just, oh man, just the fucking dialogue in that is just horrible. Like,
So hardcore.
oh man, yeah, no, the line is just like, oh, Rock On Shaka Bra actually features unironically in that film, in that game, and it's just like,
Well, what's the
just
difference?
what?
It's a walking sim.
Yeah, it's just it's a walking sim, and it's just, I mean, the premise is interesting. It's just it's very like it's very much just guided for you, and
Oh yeah,
you know,
it's the exact same premise as Majora's Mask. An impending
yeah,
apocalypse, and you have the ability to revert time.
yeah, pretty much, and it's yeah, like I mean, and even just some of the characters are just like, I think one of them, the blue haired girl who is like,
Chloe, the one who
yeah,
can't
Chloe.
operate a firearm without shooting herself.
Yeah, it's just like you just get to a stage where it's just like just stop fucking holding a gun, Chloe. Maybe they just don't like you. How about that? It's yeah, like everything is just like it's so painfully twee that you start getting sick of it. Like I actually started rooting for the main villain of all of this because it was just like I'm done with all of these people. Like
Yeah,
I'm done with
it gets to that horror. It gets to that teen horror level where you just don't give a shit. They can die.
yeah, just like suck this entire shitty town and everyone in it into a black hole, please. It's like that's an awesome ending
Yeah,
for
this has
me.
probably turned me off of going to Portland, Oregon altogether. Then,
Yeah.
and I wanted to go up there purely for the national parks that are there.
Yeah, it's just like I'd like to go to Portland. I mean, just to sort of see what it's. I mean, I think
It can't
I
be
know that
it can't be hipsterville as portrayed because I live in Austin, Texas, which is hipsterville within a sea of red,
yeah,
and the only way it can supply its lofty lifestyle, I should say, is because we're surrounded by oil fields forever
yeah,
and mines.
pretty much. And I think my city is just like there is like a hipster element to it, but really it's sort of like it's blue collar mining heartland. So yeah,
I drive past a university every
yep.
day that has what did they say this time? We stand with our Muslim neighbors, and it says LGBTQA plus friendly right next
Oh
to it.
god.
And I'm like,
Uh,
I believe these two are mutually exclusive.
yes, this is what they call cognitive dissonance.
There's still
Yeah, it's
there's still like Sanders feel the burn up everywhere on my road to work. And,
yeah.
and it's like Bernie did get screwed from the DNC because I've been going through all the emails of how they stacked the deck and how they bought out some delegates and with either money or with favoritism. And but I can't make a huge opinion on it just yet because I haven't gone through all the information. That seems
for sure.
Yeah, but that seems how it's shaping out. And these emails leaked from WikiLeaks could be fabricated. However, I'm sort of still up in the air about it.
Yeah, I'm kind of up in the air about it as well. It's just like, just because, I mean,
yes, it's
Julian
almost
Assange.
Crazy to believe. It's kind of like the Game Journal's pros list, where it's almost too wild to believe that this level of collusion would be happening.
For sure. I think it's gonna hit everyone in like a few days. It's just like, if it's like, holy shit, this is happening, or holy shit, this can't be true, you know. I think people are just sort of still fresh with it. But
insert Ron Paul.
Yeah. Like, as for I mean, admittedly, I don't know a whole lot about all the other independents and stuff in the American election, just because I'm not American myself.
Well, you're with the majority of Americans, because only 10% of us actually vote.
Yeah, no, it's just like, I'm honestly at a stage of just like, no, it's, I mean, I don't, like, probably I think out of Trump, Clinton, and Sanders, like, my beliefs align more so with Sanders than with anything. Like, honestly, it's just like making like Clinton the the delegate for the for the Democratic Party. They're only just shooting themselves in the foot. Like, you just see the amount of support that Trump is getting, and it's just like, you see the left just trying to sell it on, just like, oh, but Hillary's a woman, and any vote for Hillary is one taken away from Trump. It's like saying vote for Dolores Umbridge, otherwise Voldemort. Yeah, it's just seeing it all play out. It's just kind of just like, look, you're Americans. You have the choice of whether you vote or not. I'd really just not turn up on voting day if I were you. I think these people.
That's where a lot of people sort of stand. It's like, you know what, I'm not gonna bother with you. But but yeah, switching topics here. I'm kind of running out.
For sure. No worries.
So Wonder Woman, we talked about this. What else has been going on that's worthy of note? There is a development so far, and it looks like Hogan versus Joker 2.0. William Shatner is in hot water with the blog, The Mary Sue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh God, what did he do? Did he friggin' like man stare at them or something? Like, really, it doesn't take much to offend the Mary Sue.
I believe that they had attained some information about him or about what he was doing at the time.
Yeah.
Or something to that. Anyway, there might be legal ramifications.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, but anything against Shocker, the Mary Sue, or any of those tabloids, I'm probably gonna throw my opinion toward the plaintiff.
Yeah, of course. It's like, I'm much
the
same.
The last great appearance of William Shatner was the Negotiator Priceline commercial.
Yeah. Although I did like him in Boston Legal. He had an okay part in Boston Legal. It wasn't too bad to see it on a Wednesday night after uni. So
yeah,
but
Boston Legal was kind of like it's kind of a less dramatic Law and Order.
Yeah.
So far as I can see.
Yeah, the lighter side of Law and Order.
Yeah. And so what else? So aside from Life is Strange, what else have you been playing?
I managed to sort of grab an emulator, and I think I've just been sort of replaying my way through like Pokemon Gold and stuff like that. If I'm honest, it's I've just basically just been going back to a lot of old school games that I sort of missed out on, and just been trying to sort of pick up on those a little bit, just until Mafia 3 comes out, pretty much, because it is a case of just like, I do work a lot on my laptop and stuff like that, and sometimes it's good to just sort of have a little collection of games on there that I really like. And I think I don't really want to go into this whole idea of just like trying to sort of shell out for, I think, big AAA titles and everything at the moment. It's like, sometimes it's just good to get back to basics and, just rediscover, like, just try and sort of revisit, like, what playing games as a kid was like versus, like, what it's like now. And just back when there wasn't as much sort of, when there didn't seem to be as much politics to it as it is now.
So much hubris behind it, I should say.
Yeah.
And,
because
and here's something I found out interesting. Speaking of retro stuff, I picked up a cartridge of what was it? Org Battle 64. And
wow.
yeah, it was for like $15 at like a pawn shop that's near me. And
oh wow.
Yeah, they're idiots, but that's why I love them. And
yeah, that's a fine, dude. Like,
yeah, because I already had a cartridge of it back when I was still like 7 or whenever that came out. And I used the game short and it blew up pretty much. It became a smoking ruin.
How did it blow up?
I don't know. I kept it on a carpet because I was an idiot.
Oh, okay. Oh, jeez.
And it is Texas here, so it's 101 in the summer and 100 every other month.
Fair enough.
Yeah, and so I'm thinking, oh, it's got to be just as beautiful as I remember because all my memories are in HD. And nope, it's not. It looks super grainy on my screen because again, it's an old N64 adapted to a TV that was made about 2 months ago.
Oh, okay.
So it looks super hyper pixelated, I should say. It looks like a Jackson Pollock painting almost.
Yeah. I think I had the same experience with I managed to get a copy of Rare Replay on my Xbox One. It was the sole reason that I got an Xbox One. It was just like, oh man, this is an awesome collection. And I think I ended up playing Banjo-Kazooie on it, and it was just, I know, it's just like that old chestnut. It was like I think, like you said, all my memories are in HD, and it's just like, I think I went back and it was just like, man, it's like, this is so bricky, but it's like, hindsight's 2020 as well. It's just like, back in the day, this was amazing, whereas nowadays, like, we have GTA 5 that's completely like mocapped and everything. So it's just, but like, it was cool because the old memories were still there for me, and it was just like, you see Gruntilda and you go to sort of like Rusty Bucket Bay and everything. It's just, sometimes it's just cool to revisit the games that you loved as a kid. It's I enjoy it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so funny.
And then we go back to Dark Souls and pretty much.
Just like, go back to BioShock and feel all the feelings again.
Yeah. I actually did get the original BioShock when it came out, just because I had known, like, okay, it's a new console generation. Shooters are pretty up in the air because before that I'd gotten a hold of Fear, which was a sort of spiritual successor to the original Doom, very much on movement and sort of reaction-based shooting. Which and isn't it such a weird twist of fate that the new Doom from Bethesda borrowed so much from Fear, and Fear stole so much from the original Doom?
Yeah.
It's like the thief that Square Enix made, and how much they stole from Dishonored, and how much Dishonored stole from the original Thief. It's sort of like a never-ending cycle of copyright, or barely
symbiotic.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny how you see sort of just like different games picking up different elements from other different games, because I mean, after a while, I mean, I suppose in some respects it can get a bit depressing. I think when you see game companies do this, because it's just like, okay, it seems that they're sort of latching onto this formula that's been tried and true for this game, and yeah, it's just like, I mean, the audience is not that stupid. Like, come on, guys. But in other respects, it's just like sometimes it's also good to, you know, to sort of stick with what you know as well, or have something that, like, um rather than just like run the risk of just like completely fucking it up. I mean, at least they've gotten this one sort of mechanic
Yeah,
right.
it's not like Banjo-Tooie nuts and bolts fuck up.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, I think I actually ended up playing Nuts and Bolts not
When
that
it
long
came
ago,
out,
like, because
or recent?
I tried playing it when it came out. I ended up putting it down because it was just like, nah, I think, nah, I'm out. It's like that's all I can take. But I ended up finishing the game not that long ago, and it's not incredibly awful. It's just that they took a risk and it just didn't take off like they would have thought. Because I think that half the problem was that the viewers placed too much expectation on it to be exactly like the original, like Banjo Kazooie or Banjo Tooie.
I originally thought it was going to be a very up in the air sort of platformer in the classical sense, much like platformers of that day, like Mario
Yeah,
64, Mario Sunshine, Conker's Bad Fur Day. It's stuff
yeah.
like that.
Like, I would have loved it if it was an original platformer. I think most of us would. It's, like, that's what we were all sort of hoping for when it did come out. But it's, I mean, like, Rare, they did try to do something new. They tried to reboot the series and sort of tried to, I think, because it wasn't even necessarily like on trend as far as, I think as far as game goes, like you assemble cars like as you go, and
Yeah,
at points it does.
the whole building and crafting craze didn't take off until Notch came out with Minecraft, and then you have every game have some sort of crafting component to it.
Yeah, just like if they'd taken like yeah, I think I don't want to tell them that they stood in their lane, but they released this just at the wrong sort of time because yeah, like it didn't
Like
take
I
off
could
until
see
sort
if
of
this was
Minecraft
released,
really.
if Nuts and Bolts was released in like 2012, I could see it like doing very well
Yeah,
for that audience that is looking for the next big building. And
absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah, like I think it would be phenomenal if like people actually sort of went back and played it. It's just that at that time it was just like we were all sort of expecting a platform. We were expecting to collect the notes and the jiggies and everything, and and the honeycomb pieces, and it was just like we got this, and it was just all like gears and oh let's fly through these rings, let's collect all these things, and how we have to like MacGyver a car together to do so, and people were just like, what? What is this? Like, as far as set design goes, though, I think uh, I'm a little divided on it because the sets that they do have I think are well constructed. Like they do look kind of nice, and it is an environment that you do want to be in because it's. I think there's one that's like Nutty Acre Farms that's sort of it's all kind of it's all sort of like patchwork together, and it's just the textures in it are really nice. Um, but there's only about 6 or so environments, and you have like different sort of installments of those environments. Like to me, that was just a really sort of convoluted way of doing things. But if they just stuck to just a few sort of environments and just sort of left all the missions just in one chunk, then they would have been a lot more successful, I think, because it was just like you get a certain amount of nodes to unlock like 2 or 3 more missions in that same world. So it's just like you kind of it's sort of like the gaming equivalent of of just rewording one paragraph multiple times in order to meet a word count in an assignment, like if you're writing an essay or something. So it was just, yeah, I think maybe they had to maybe they had to just meet a big deadline or something. But yeah, I reckon that it was just mainly sort of timing and some construction of the game that needed a little bit of work. But overall, once you get rid of that expectation of like, oh, this is going to be just like the games that I loved as a kid, instead of something that sort of that does go off in a different direction. Like once you sort of get rid of that mentality, then it really isn't a bad game. It's, it's not the greatest game in the world either, but it's not as terrible as first thought.
Well, that's all of our show. Usually we
Yeah,
go on
no
for
worries.
2 hours, but
Yeah, no
but at
worries.
that point we just had a podcast like 21 days ago. We usually do these each month
Yeah,
because then we've
yeah,
accumulated enough cringe, controversies, spats,
yeah,
and whatever to talk about. And every other month there is some sort of new game that came out from whoever, and
yeah, no
we get
worries.
on its case and whine like an old married couple.
Yeah, no,
And
it's all good. Thank you for very much for inviting us on.
yes, well, thank you very much for coming, Trigger Ken.
Yep.
And yes, and thank you everybody who is watching this or will be watching this in the future, the far
Yep.
flung
Thanks for
future.
tuning in, folks.
All right. Thank you very much and good
No
night.
worries. I'll see you around.
Later.
Bye.